Welcome to my News on Point, your pulse on trending news. Stay connected by subscribing to our channel.
American veterans of Igbo descent have told the Nigerian government to, with immediate effect, go back to the 1960 constitution or Nigeria will finally collapse. And immediately we saw the Commonwealth sending their delegate to meet President Tinubu that reconfigure, recalibrate, and restructure the country, or this sufferness will not stop. Quickly, Mr. Tinubu, what's your take on this?
I've always been an advocate of that, because that will give people, regional autonomy to discover themselves. The regional powers in Nigeria have not been able to discover themselves, and know how to champion their respective, destinies. But ab initio, you find out that that arrangement was balkanized because the foundations of which Nigeria was built was not something that is sustainable. If you look at the First Republic and the Second Republic, what transpired, you will know actually that the British actually laid a collapsed foundation, and that collapsed foundation is how they were able, to bring the supposed components, that make up Nigeria. And secondly, if you look at when and how they begin the concept of protectorate, and of course, trying to bring certain people, there's a particular region that was not part of the meeting that gave birth to protectorate, and of course, subsequently, Nigeria. And that tribe has been Igbo, has been Biafrans, majority of them. And when you look at what Lord Lugard was trying to say at that particular time, after he has had some experiences in some part of the Africa, I think in Congo or wherever, where he became Governor General subsequently, before they now moved him to Nigeria, you discover that he said something based on the history of British colonialism ideology. And that ideology, they were actually looking at, that the Northerners, who operate a certain system of government when they came, which is seen, as a direct rule. So from there, they feel that these people too, that the other side is a little bit maybe advanced, or I don't know how they came up with that, arrangement, but I think there was an understanding that the Southern Protectorate is a little bit enlightened, and they struggled. Yoruba is the only race in Africa, that deliberately wrote to the British government for them to come and intervene. The Igbos never did that. The Igbos fought them for how many years? For years. The Northerners, through the nomads, because they started studying, the influence of the Arab clan, as at that time, and they discovered that some elements of them under the Usman Dafodio constituents, who found themselves in the northern part of the country, were definitely used because if you look at it very well, the Arabs, has mastered, the conquest through trade. So they felt that, having had a kind of relationship with them based on their stand, as an empire at that time, and they decided to advise them to go into the military. That's what happened about Nigeria. Then when they finally come up with the concept of protectorate, Lagos was an administrative colony, an island, so to say, Lago de Coramo. That was what they used to call Lagos at that time. Lago de Coramo is a Portuguese word. You understand? So before they can now translate it to Lagos or thereabout and begin to hear all those kind of things and all that. But look at those people, Pan-Africanists, the likes of Kwame Nkrumah, the likes of Julius Nyerere, the likes of Macaulay, and of course Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, that started the concept, of Africanism that led to the independence of some African countries. But in Nigeria, how come we now have francophone countries that surrounded us? And how did the British negotiated, the buying? Nigeria was actually bought. They went to Berlin, to Germany, and discussed how to share Africa without consultation. And that was why some of those things we are seeing today as a result of those decisions that were taken during that period. So after all said and done, they came up with that idea of regionalism that was subsequently balkanized as a result of the coup that came, that was taxed an Igbo coup, even though we know that it was not an Igbo coup, it was purely a military affair. So right after the journalism was the concept came up, the people, and that era was balkanized, and they're trying to find out that during that issue of regionalism, where we have Awolowo, as the head, we have the other one from the east, and of course from the south, from the north, they came together and started having a central government. But as a result of the way and manner the coup went, Major General Aguiyi, who happens to be the first military head of state of Nigeria, decided that I'm going to for this not to happen, maybe the fear of regionalism and for trying to keep Nigeria one, that there's need for us to have a unitary system of government. And that was how that Jaja Nwachukwu and the rest of them, who happened to be the first speaker in the House of Representatives as at that time, they now came up, and said, let us unity, that's a unitary system of government, and that was what gave birth to nationalism and all that. But it discovered that, that arrangement was not too comfortable after it has been tried several times by subsequent government and others. And of course, to an extent, it was skewed towards one region. And today, they have tried it and discovered that this thing was not actually, giving the people what they wanted. And of course, in a very clear term, this is what Odibogo Ojukwu had with Gowon in Ghana, Aburi. When they came back, Confederation was misinterpreted, and of course that what led to the Civil War. And in furtherance to that, Gowon dismantled that regional system of government completely by creating what states. I think there are about 12 states or thereabout. Since that time, Nigeria has been struggling, to see how they are going to couple the national concept of one Nigeria at the end of the day. But it has never worked. So, and these patriots, these elders, and a renowned international diplomat, led. You can see what Baba Babalolo or something. Yeah, you understand? Was saying, that these people should be looked into, because we feel that the Northerners will not want to return to the journalism. And if they are going to return to the journalism, what type of restructuring will power down the journalism? Regionalism is another thing, regional autonomy is another thing, but what kind of restructuring are they, what kind of idea of restructuring are they going to adopt to power that regionalism. I think that is where the North and South, the Hausa, the Yorubas, and the Igbos are struggling to find their feet. And the North, as is saying completely, that because of the national interest, basically structured under crude oil, that it will be very difficult for North to agree to that. There have been several attempts.
I mean, the former governor of Kano State actually came out to say that he is against regionalism, that there is nothing wrong with the Nigerian constitution, that what we need is better people. Do you agree?
I totally.
Do you think regionalism is the final solution?
No, it's not. It's not. No, if it was about during the era of Obasanjo, we would have placed that on the table, fist on it. Look at how we're going to come up with a better options to eat. Because if you listen to an interview some time ago granted by Gani Adams, you discover that there was something Gani Adams was trying to say, that if we're going to embark on regionalism, are we going to allow the status quo to remain? The political state structure, are we going to allow it to remain? Whereby, for instance, we are having Southwest, we are having Ogun State, but under a regional leader. For me, that's the question, and these are the things that they need to put on the table and look at it properly. That the entire South, for instance, if there's anything like South anyway, if there's anything like Niger Delta, for me, because we know that, from Southern Taraba, Benue, Kogi, they were greater East Central State. As at 1900, those territories were purely a Biafran territory. We are under the administration, of the entire enclave of the Biafrans, so to say. But as a result of what we are trying to look at, if you say South that has how many states, that now they're going to present one regional leader that will act as a president or a prime minister or just any form of name that will be given to that office, that will oversee the entire region where they will still have those states. Do you understand what I'm saying? But are we going to have complete regionalism without states? That's another thing. So it is going to be it's going to be something the country needs to sit down and decide. Because if Obasanjo has taken up as of 1999, where we are just emerging from a military junta, under military rule for some time, and said, okay, this is the way to go. By now, I think that concept would have gotten its root, well planted, and by now, maybe would have been test running that idea today. But as it stands now, I don't think that regionalism is an option. They are only giving it up, mentioning it because of national, so that Nigeria will not collapse. Nigeria is already, cracked, as in there's massive underground break up in terms of, when I say a building is cracking, it means that any moment that building can actually collapse. You can see what the Northern just somebody from the North just wrote to the president a few weeks ago and told him that it is time for them to divide Nigeria. The North has enormous, more than the South, resources to stay on their own as a nation.
But the northern politicians do not want that.
They don't want it. They're not that they don't want it, Because see, who is going to labor? That's the question. Is it not ready to labor? There are countries that doesn't even have crude oil, but the sophistication in leadership, has made those countries to do what? Stand as a nation. The North can stand on their own as a nation. The Southwest can stand on their own as a nation. The eastern part of the country can stand their own as a nation. But because of the conspiracy theory and the mystery surrounding the system. That is why you see all these things looking as if it is not possible. It is 100% possible. Nigeria is a creation of human being. It's only one kingdom in Africa that I know, that I believe in, that is tied to greatness, to divinity.
And what is that kingdom?
I don't want to talk about it now because I know that you want to hear more about that, but I'm just trying to tell you what the American Victorians are trying to, the message they're trying to pass. Because the continued detention of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu there is giving credit and credibility to the quest for the world to call Nigeria. They are not psychologically sound. As I'm talking to you now, US, UK, France, and China, has stripped Nigeria of diplomatic immunity. For me, I think it is because of what is being linked, the recent unguided, misguided statement credited to the Finnish ambassador to Nigeria, Elena, who came out and maybe he was being induced and started making, he's already causing, misunderstanding among, committee of friends who are linked to an interest. So the fact is that they have sent the signal, but the truth of the matter is that do Nigeria at this point in time need journalism? That's the question. For me, I feel that Nigeria does not need journalism. What Nigeria needs at this point in time is peaceful disintegration of the entity.
Nigeria disintegrating is a question that begs the answer of all the Nigerian people living together. Thank you for that wonderful submission, Mr. Tinubu. Thank you for your time.